the first thing I learned about marrying a mafia boss was that nobody expected the bride to matter. Not the guards at the Black Iron Gate. Not the women in diamond earrings whispering behind white roses. Not the man who handed me $5,000 in cash and told me to smile like my life had not just been rented for the night. The rain had been falling over Chicago since sundown, cold and silver against the tall windows of the Whitmore estate, turning every reflection into something ghostly. I stood in a guest bathroom bigger than my entire apartment, staring at a woman I barely recognized in the mirror. The wedding dress was ivory, expensive, and 2 sizes too small. The zipper stopped halfway up my back. The sleeves pinched my arms. The satin pulled tight over my hips every time I breathed. I looked like a mistake wrapped in silk. Maybe that was why they chose me. Because no one would believe Adrian Whitmore, the most feared man in the city, would ever choose a girl like Clara Bennett. Poor Clara. Soft Clara. The girl who stocked shelves at a grocery store before sunrise and cleaned hotel rooms after dark. The girl who counted quarters for bus fare and pretended not to hear when strangers laughed at her body like it was public property. I had been called sweet, plain, sturdy, dependable. Never beautiful. Never powerful. Definitely never dangerous. Yet there I was, 24 years old, standing in a mansion full of people who could buy my neighborhood and rename it by morning, wearing a bride's veil that smelled faintly of perfume that was not mine. The real bride had disappeared 3 hours before the ceremony. That was all they told me. A woman with a sharp face and colder hands had found me in the hotel laundry room, where I was folding towels and trying not to think about my overdue rent. She asked my name, my dress size, and whether I wanted to make more money in one night than I made in 3 months. I should have said no. Every normal part of me knew that. But normal people did not have eviction notices taped to their doors. Normal people did not have little brothers waiting at home with college brochures and hope in their eyes. So I said yes. I thought I was pretending to be a bride for a few photographs, a few signatures, maybe some strange rich family arrangement I was too poor to understand. Then I saw the men in black suits posted at every hallway. I saw the way guests lowered their voices when the Whitmore name was spoken. I saw the wedding program with my name printed beneath his in gold ink, as if fate had perfect handwriting. Clara Bennett and Adrian Whitmore. The letters looked impossible together. A knock landed on the bathroom door. Not loud, not rushed, just certain. I turned, my heart kicking hard against the dress. A man's voice spoke from the other side, low and controlled. Miss Bennett, Mr. Whitmore is ready for his bride. I opened the bathroom door with one hand pressed against the back of the dress, as if I could hold myself together by holding fabric. The man waiting outside was older, silver-haired, with a face that looked carved out of patience and secrets. He did not look surprised by the unfinished zipper, or my shaking fingers, or the fact that I was breathing like someone about to step off a roof. He simply glanced once over my shoulder and said, "Mrs. Whitmore will have someone fix that." I almost laughed. Mrs. Whitmore. The name sounded too heavy for me, like a diamond necklace placed around the throat of someone used to plastic beads. I followed him down a hallway lined with oil paintings and fresh lilies, my cheap flats whispering against marble that shined so brightly I could see the hem of the dress dragging behind me. Every few steps, another man in a dark suit watched me pass. Their eyes moved over me quickly, professionally, then away. I was not a woman to them. I was an arrangement, a solution, a placeholder in ivory satin. At the top of the staircase, the house opened beneath me like a scene from another life. Hundreds of guests filled the ballroom below, all white flowers, gold lights, crystal glasses, and quiet conversations that stopped the moment they saw me. Silence climbed the stairs and wrapped around my throat. I heard one woman whisper, "That cannot be her." Another voice, younger and sharper, answered, "Maybe the real bride ran and they picked someone from the kitchen." A few people laughed softly, not loudly. That would have been rude. Rich people had a way of making cruelty sound like good manners. I kept my chin up because lowering it would have made them right. My hands still trembled, but my feet kept moving. Step by step, breath by breath. Halfway down, the dress pulled tight around my ribs, and I nearly stumbled. A ripple of amusement passed through the crowd. Heat climbed into my cheeks. I wanted to vanish. I wanted my faded jeans, my bus pass, my tiny apartment with its rattling heater and chipped blue mugs. I wanted anything except this staircase, this dress, This room full of beautiful strangers measuring my worth and finding it funny. Then the front doors opened at the far end of the ballroom. The laughter died before I reached the last step. Adrian Whitmore entered without raising his voice, without hurrying, without asking for attention. The room gave it to him anyway. He was tall, pale-skinned, dressed in black from his tie to his polished shoes, his dark blonde hair brushed back from a face so controlled it almost did not look human. Men moved behind him, but he did not need them to seem powerful. Power was in the way he looked at a room and made every person remember what they owed. His eyes found me. Gray, cold, unreadable. For one strange second, I forgot the whispers. I forgot the dress. I forgot to breathe. He crossed the ballroom, each step measured, and stopped in front of me. Up close, he smelled faintly of rain and clean, expensive soap. His gaze moved once over my face, not my body, not the dress, my face, like he was looking for the truth and expected it to hide there. "You are Clara Bennett," he said. "Yes." My voice came out small, but steady enough to survive. His jaw tightened, just a little. "Good. Stand beside me. Say nothing. Survive the night." I stared at him, waiting for a joke, a threat, an explanation, anything that would make those words less terrifying. None came. Behind us, someone whispered that I looked like I had borrowed a life that did not fit. Adrian heard it. I know he did, because his eyes moved over my shoulder and the whisper stopped instantly. Then he offered me his arm. Formal and cold, like this was a business meeting instead of a wedding. I took it because the whole room was watching, because rent was due in 4 days, because my little brother still believed I could fix anything, and because some part of me understood that refusing Adrian Whitmore in his own house would not give me freedom. It would only make everyone notice how badly I wanted it. His sleeve was smooth beneath my fingers. His arm did not move, not even when the cameras flashed, not even when the priest opened his book, not even when I realized the woman standing near the front row, elegant in silver, was watching me with a smile that never touched her eyes. The ceremony lasted 12 minutes, but I felt every second of it like a hand pressed between my shoulder blades. The priest spoke about loyalty, devotion, and sacred promises while Adrian Whitmore stood beside me like a locked door. His voice did not shake when he said his vows. Mine nearly did. When I promised to stand with him, the crowd watched as if they were waiting for me to mispronounce the words, trip on the hem, prove I belonged in the laundry room instead of beneath a ceiling painted with angels. The ring he placed on my finger was too large and too cold. It slid almost to my knuckle before he caught my hand and held it still. His thumb brushed the back of my fingers once, not tender, not romantic, just controlled. A warning to stop trembling, or maybe a command to survive. I could not tell the difference. When the priest pronounced us husband and wife, no one cheered right away. The silence was too long. Then Adrian turned his head slightly toward the room, and applause rose like rain beginning after thunder. Polite, careful, afraid. He did not kiss me. He only leaned close enough that his voice reached my ear and no one else. "Keep your eyes open, Clara." That was all. My stomach tightened. I wanted to ask what he meant, but a camera flashed, and the ballroom shifted around us. Music began. Guests moved. Champagne appeared on silver trays. Suddenly, I was no longer a bride in a ceremony. I was a prop in a performance everyone understood except me. Adrian kept me at his side for the first 20 minutes, introducing me to people whose smiles looked polished and empty. Senator Hale, Mr. and Mrs. Bellamy, Father Callahan, his younger half-brother, Nolan Whitmore, who had golden hair, pale blue eyes, and a grin that felt too bright to be honest. Nolan kissed the air beside my cheek and whispered, "Brave girl. Most people get paid more to stand this close to a wolf." I pulled back, but Adrian answered before I could. "Careful, Nolan. She hears better than you think." Nolan laughed, but his eyes flattened. Then came the woman in silver. Evelyn Whitmore, Adrian's stepmother. Her white skin was smooth as porcelain, her silver dress soft as moonlight, and her smile sharp enough to cut without leaving a mark. She took both my hands and looked at the ring sliding loose on my finger. "Poor thing," she said warmly. They did not even have time to size it. Around us, a few women laughed into their glasses. I swallowed the sting and smiled back. That is all right. Some things can be resized. Some things cannot. Her smile paused, just for a heartbeat. Adrian looked at me then, really looked, and something almost like interest moved through his cold gray eyes. Before anyone could speak, a server bumped my elbow, sending a splash of champagne across my sleeve. I stepped back quickly, apologizing even though I had done nothing wrong. The server looked terrified. Evelyn's gaze flicked past me toward the hallway. Nolan followed her glance. So did I? A man in a charcoal suit stood near the service door, holding a tray with one crystal glass set apart from the others. A black ribbon was tied around its stem. No one else seemed to notice. Adrian was pulled into a quiet conversation by an older man with a red face and shaking hands. For the first time all night, his arm left mine. The room felt colder without it. I moved toward the side hallway, pretending to fix the wet sleeve of my dress. My heart was beating too fast, but my feet kept going. Behind the service door, voices murmured in a storage room filled with flower boxes and folded linens. Nolan's voice came first, soft and amused. By midnight, the Whitmore Empire belongs to us. Then Evelyn answered, calm as a church. Bell, only if the bride stays foolish and Adrian drinks from the right glass. I stopped breathing behind the service door, one hand pressed against my mouth, the other clutching the damp sleeve of a wedding dress that suddenly felt less like a costume and more like a target. For a moment, my mind refused to understand what my ears had already heard. Midnight. Adrian. The right glass. Those words moved through me like ice water. I was supposed to be foolish. That was the part that hurt first, before the fear. Not because they were wrong to underestimate me. I was poor. I was tired. I was a stranger in borrowed satin with a zipper that still did not close all the way. But foolish was different. Foolish meant harmless. Foolish meant invisible. Foolish meant they could plan the fall of a man 10 feet away from me because girls like me were furniture with a heartbeat. Inside the storage room, Nolan laughed softly. He always trusted control more than people, he said. Evelyn answered, then let him trust the glass. My fingers tightened around the doorframe. I should have run. I should have found a guard, whispered what I had heard, handed the problem back to the rich and dangerous people who owned it. But every man in that house seemed to belong to someone. Every smile had a price. Every hallway had ears. And I had been Clara Bennett long enough to know that when powerful people decided a poor girl was convenient, her truth became easy to erase. A shadow moved near the hallway entrance. The man with the tray stepped out of the storage room, the single glass with the black ribbon balanced in the center like something sacred. He passed so close I could smell citrus polish on the crystal. My heart climbed into my throat. I waited until he turned toward the ballroom, then followed at a distance, lifting the front of my dress with both hands so I would not trip. The music had grown louder. Strings and piano. Elegant. Calm. Completely wrong for the terror unfolding beneath the chandeliers. Adrian stood near the center of the room, surrounded by men who leaned in when he spoke and stepped back when he finished. He looked untouchable. That was the trick, I realized. Everyone believed he could not be reached. Even him. The server moved toward him. 10 feet. 8. 6. Nolan appeared beside Evelyn, smiling like a proud son at a family portrait. The room blurred at the edges. I had seconds. I could scream, but who would believe me? I could grab the glass, but the men around Adrian would stop me before I reached it. Then I saw the hem of my too-tight dress, the one everyone had laughed at, dragging slightly over the polished floor. The thing that made me look ridiculous. The thing that could make me fall. So I did. I stepped forward, caught my own toe beneath the satin, and let my body pitch into the server's path. The tray tilted. Crystal rang out. Champagne flew in a bright arc beneath the gold lights and spilled across Adrian Whitmore's black jacket. The ballroom gasped. Then it laughed. A soft, ugly wave of amusement rolled over me as I landed on my knees, cheeks burning, palms stinging from the cold marble. Someone whispered, of course. The poor bride cannot even walk. I looked up. Adrian was staring down at me, champagne dripping from his sleeve, his face carved into something colder than anger. The marked glass had shattered beside his shoe. Its contents spread across the marble, thin and shining. For one terrible second, I thought I had failed. Then a large white shepherd near the staircase, one of Adrian's quiet guard dogs, lifted its head. Its ears sharpened. It moved forward, sniffed once at the spilled liquid, and let out a low warning sound that silenced the room faster than any gun ever could. Adrian's eyes dropped to the floor, then to the black ribbon, then to me. The laughter died. My voice shook, but I made myself speak. I am not clumsy, Mr. Whitmore. I just knew no one would listen if I told the truth while standing up. The room had never felt so large or so silent. I stayed on my knees because standing too quickly would have made me look guilty, and somehow, in that house, truth needed careful posture. Adrian did not move for 3 seconds. The champagne darkened one sleeve of his jacket. Shattered crystal glittered beside his shoe like frozen rain. The white shepherd stood near the spill, body tense, eyes fixed. On the floor, every guest in the ballroom seemed to hold the same breath. Then Adrian lifted one hand. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just 2 fingers raised into the air. The music stopped. The doors closed. Men in black suits shifted into place with quiet precision, not touching anyone, not threatening anyone, simply reminding the room that nobody left until Adrian decided the night was over. His gray eyes remained on me. "Speak," he said. One word. Calm. Heavy. I swallowed, tasting fear and humiliation and the cheap peppermint I had chewed before the ceremony, because I could not afford nervousness on my breath. I heard them in the service hallway. I said, "Nolan and Mrs. Whitmore." Evelyn's face did not change, but her fingers tightened around the stem of her glass. Nolan gave a soft laugh. "This is absurd. Adrian." She tripped over her own dress, and now she is inventing a little drama to save herself embarrassment. He sounded kind. That was what made him frightening. Kind voices could bury a girl like me faster than cruel ones. Adrian finally looked away from me and turned to his half-brother. "Did she know about the ribbon?" Nolan blinked. "What ribbon?" "The one tied to the glass you watched for the last 5 minutes." The room shifted. A few guests looked down. A few looked at Nolan. Evelyn stepped forward with a polished sigh. "Adrian, darling, this is your wedding night. Do not let a hired stranger turn family into theater." Hired stranger. There it was. The truth of what I was to them. Not bride. Not witness. Not woman. Just a temporary body in a dress. My cheeks burned, but I forced myself to stand. The zipper at my back pulled. My knees ached. My palms were red from the marble. I wanted to disappear, but I had already spent too many years making myself smaller so other people could feel comfortable. Not tonight. I looked at Evelyn and said, "You are right. I was hired. That is why nobody cared what I heard. That is why your son talked in front of me. That is why the man with the tray walked past me like I was a chair." Nolan's smile thinned. Adrian's eyes returned to my face. I continued before courage could leave me. "I do not know what was in that glass. I do not know what you planned to make it look like. I only know you said by midnight his empire would belong to you. And she said only if the bride stayed foolish." The word bride trembled when I said it. Adrian heard that too. He heard everything. His gaze moved to the white shepherd, to the broken glass, to the black ribbon wet against the floor. Then he turned toward the silver-haired man who had brought me from the bathroom. "Miles, secure the glass. Quietly. Have it tested." Miles nodded once and moved with a handkerchief, careful as a priest handling a relic. Evelyn laughed softly, but it did not reach her eyes. "You are letting a girl from a laundry room command your house now?" Adrian stepped closer to me. Not touching, not shielding, just standing beside me, where everyone could see the choice. "No," he said. "I am listening to the only person in this room who risked looking ridiculous to keep me alive." Something inside me loosened. Not because I trusted him. I did not. Not yet. But for the first time that night, someone powerful had repeated my truth out loud. Nolan's face changed then. Just a flicker. A crack in the charming mask. Adrian saw it. So did I. And in that moment, I understood the real danger was not the marked glass. It was that Adrian Whitmore had built a kingdom full of people who feared him, but almost no one who loved him enough to warn him. If this Mafia romance story pulled you in, please like the video, comment your thoughts, or a moment when someone underestimated you. And keep watching until the end, because Clara and Adrian's marriage still hides a shocking betrayal, a powerful love story, and a mafia boss twist you will not see coming. Adrian did not shout after that. Somehow, the quiet was worse. He gave 3 small instructions, and the ballroom rearranged itself around his silence. The guests were guided toward the east parlor with polite smiles and locked doors. The musicians lowered their instruments. The servers disappeared into the walls. Nolan stayed where he was, charming face still in place, but his eyes followed the handkerchief wrapped around the broken glass as Miles carried it away. Evelyn lifted her chin like a queen offended by bad weather. I stood beside Adrian in a ruined wedding dress, waiting for someone to remember I did not belong there and remove me from the story. Instead, Adrian looked down at my scraped palms. "Come with me," he said. It was not a request. I almost said no. The word rose in my throat, small but stubborn. Then I saw Nolan watching me again, and I understood that leaving Adrian's side might be the most dangerous choice in the room. So I followed him through a side door, down a hallway dimmer than the ballroom, past portraits of stern white men who looked like they had been judging people for 100 years. My dress whispered over the carpet. His shoes made no sound. The library waited at the end of the hall, dark wood, green lamps, shelves reaching to the ceiling, a fireplace glowing low behind a brass screen. The second the door closed behind us, the air changed. The applause, the laughter, the music, all gone. There was only rain against the windows and my own breathing. Adrian turned to face me. "Tell me everything." "I already did." "No. You told the room enough to stop the toast. Now tell me what you left out." His eyes were not cold now. They were sharp, focused, a blade made of attention. I wrapped my arms around myself, feeling the unfinished zipper gap at my back. I heard Nolan say the empire would belong to them by midnight. I heard Evelyn say it depended on me staying foolish. I saw the black ribbon. I saw the tray. That is all. Adrian stepped closer, then stopped when I stiffened. The restraint was so precise it startled me. He noticed fear the way other men noticed weather. "Why did you not come directly to me?" I laughed once, because the question was almost cruel in its innocence. "Directly to you?" "Mr. Whitmore, 2 hours ago, I was folding towels in a hotel basement. Tonight, I walked into a house where everyone knows which fork to use and which lie to tell. You are asking why I did not trust the most powerful man here when I did not even know if he was safe from his own family." Something moved across his face. Not anger, not softness. Recognition, maybe. I continued before he could hide it. Everyone saw a poor girl. In a tight dress. Everyone saw someone easy to laugh at. That was the only advantage I had. So I used it. I fell before your drink reached your hand. His gaze dropped to my palms again. "You hurt yourself to save me. I made myself look stupid to save you. There is a difference." For the first time since I met him, Adrian Whitmore looked away first. He walked to the fireplace and rested one hand on the mantel, the gold family ring catching the light. "People have spent years trying to deceive me," he said quietly. "You did it in 10 minutes. I frowned. "I did not deceive you. You made an entire room believe you were clumsy when you were the only person thinking clearly. That is not deception. That is survival." He turned back to me, and the space between us felt smaller than before. "Clara Bennett," he said slowly, as if my name had become something worth studying. "How much did they pay you?" $5,000. The number sounded uglier in that room. His jaw tightened. "And what did they promise you after tonight?" "Nothing. I was supposed to disappear back into my life before breakfast." He looked toward the window, where rain streaked the glass like silver cracks. "You cannot disappear now." My stomach dropped. There it was. The cage beneath the courtesy. I straightened, even though my knees still hurt. "Do not say it like I belong to you." His eyes returned to mine. "I did not say that. But you were about to." The silence that followed was long enough to become honest. Then Adrian did something I did not expect. He nodded. Once. Fair. That single word shook me more than any command could have. A man like him did not apologize easily. Maybe he did not know how. But fair was the first brick pulled from a wall I had thought would never move. He walked to the desk, opened a drawer, and placed a phone in front of me. "Call whoever is waiting for you. Tell them you are safe." My throat tightened before I could stop it. "My brother. Daniel. He will worry if I do not come home." Then call Daniel. After that, we find out who tried to turn my wedding into a funeral without using blood, noise, or fear. I stared at him. "We?" His mouth did not smile, but his eyes changed. "You heard what I did not. You saw what my guards missed. So yes, Clara. We." Calling my brother from Adrian Whitmore's library felt stranger than the wedding. Daniel answered on the second ring, his voice thick with sleep and worry. "Clara? Where are you?" I looked at Adrian across the desk. He stood near the fireplace with his back half turned, giving me privacy without leaving the room. "I am safe," I said, forcing the word to sound true. "I got called into a last-minute job. It ran late. Do not wait up." There was a pause, then the rustle of sheets. "You sound weird. Are you crying?" I pressed my fingers against my eyes. Daniel was 19, 6 feet tall, and still somehow the little boy who used to hold my sleeve in grocery stores so he would not get lost. No, I am just tired. Did you eat? He sighed. Clara, did you eat? I almost smiled. There it was. Home. Not marble floors, not crystal chandeliers, not men who could close doors with 2 raised fingers. Just my brother asking if I had eaten because love, in our apartment, had always sounded practical. I told him yes, even though it was a lie. Then I promised I would call in the morning and hung up before my voice broke. When I turned, Adrian had placed a plate on the edge of the desk. Toast, fruit, and a glass of water. I stared at it. Where did that come from? I asked. You said you were tired. I did not say I was hungry. People who are hungry rarely do. I should have been annoyed by how easily he read me, but my stomach betrayed me with a small, embarrassing sound. Adrian looked away, as if granting dignity to a body that had none left. I ate standing up because sitting in that dress felt impossible. He did not watch my mouth, did not smirk, did not make me feel like a spectacle. He simply waited, silent and controlled, while rain tapped the windows and the house breathed around us. Then Miles entered with a tablet and a face carved from concern. Preliminary test, he said. Nothing illegal on the surface, but enough sedative to put a grown man down for hours if mixed with alcohol. My hand froze around the glass of water. No blood, no noise. Just sleep, Adrian said quietly. Then signatures. Transfer of authority. Emergency documents. A false medical crisis. Miles nodded. Your stepmother has been pushing for the contingency papers for months. Nolan has access to the trust board. Adrian's expression did not change, but the room seemed to lose 10 degrees. I set the water down. So they did not want you gone. They wanted you silent. Adrian looked at me then. Exactly. The word landed hard because I understood silence. Mine had been purchased for $5,000 and a borrowed dress. His had almost been purchased with a glass and a family smile. Miles glanced at me, then at Adrian. What do you want done with the staff member who carried the tray? Adrian's answer came too fast. Bring him in. I stepped forward before fear could stop me. No. Both men looked at me. My pulse jumped, but I kept going. He looked scared when he carried it. Not proud. Not loyal. Scared. Find out who threatened him before you decide he is guilty. Miles lifted one eyebrow. Adrian studied me for a long second. You give mercy quickly. No, I said. I know what desperate people look like when rich people use them. That made the silence sharper. I expected anger. Instead, Adrian turned to Miles. Bring him in gently. Question him with counsel present. No pressure. No spectacle. Miles looked surprised for the first time. Yes, sir. When he left, Adrian faced me fully. You just gave an order in my house. I corrected an instinct in your house. There is a difference. His eyes narrowed, but not with offense. With interest. You are not afraid of me anymore. I am terrified of you. I said it plainly, because lying would insult us both. But fear does not make you right. The fire clicked behind him. Outside, thunder rolled over the estate, low and distant. Adrian took one slow step closer, then stopped with several feet between us, as if he had memorized the exact distance where I could still breathe. My father taught me that power is obedience, he said. My life taught me power is having choices, I answered. And tonight you had fewer choices than you thought. He looked down at the family. Ring on his hand. For the first time, it looked less like a crown and more like a chain. Then he removed his jacket, not for romance, not for display, but because the champagne had dried cold into the fabric. He draped it over the back of a chair and loosened his tie with a tiredness that made him seem human for one brief second. Clara, he said, my name's softer than before. If you help me uncover this, I will make sure you and Daniel are protected. I lifted my chin. I will help you because Nolan and Evelyn tried to use me. Not because you can protect me. A faint, almost impossible smile touched his mouth and vanished. Fair, he said again. And I realized that word had become our first language. The man who carried the tray was named Peter Walsh, and when Miles brought him into the library, he looked less like a traitor than a man who had not slept in days. His shirt collar was damp. His hands twisted together in front of him. He could not have been older than 26, with pale skin, red-rimmed eyes, and the hollow look of someone who had been cornered long before tonight. Adrian stood behind the desk, silent, still in his white shirt with the sleeves buttoned at his wrists. Without the jacket, He seemed less like a statue and more like a man holding himself together by habit. Miles placed a chair in front of the desk. Peter did not sit until Adrian said, "Sit down." His knees nearly gave out with relief. I stood near the window, still in the ruined dress, watching rain slide down the glass in silver lines. Peter kept glancing at me, then away, as if ashamed that I had seen him. Adrian spoke first. "Who gave you the glass?" Peter swallowed. "Mrs. Whitmore. Evelyn. She said it was a private toast. She said Mr. Nolan wanted it sent directly to you." "Nolan gave you the ribbon?" Peter nodded. "My mother works for Mrs. Whitmore's charity office. They said she would lose her job if I made a mistake. They said my sister's medical bills would stop being covered." His voice broke on the last word, but he forced himself still. "I did not know what was in it. I swear to God, I did not know." Adrian's face did not change, but his hand closed once on the edge of the desk. The old version of him, the one everyone feared, flashed through the room without a sound. I felt it. Miles felt it. Peter certainly felt it. But before Adrian could speak, I stepped forward. "Did they text you?" Peter blinked at me. "What?" "Instructions. Threats. Anything written down." He looked at Adrian, then back at me, confused by the fact that the hired bride was asking questions while the Mafia boss listened. "Yes," he whispered. "My phone." Miles took the phone with Peter's permission and connected it to the tablet. Messages filled the screen. Not enough to reveal everything, but enough to build a path. A black ribbon. A private toast. A promise that Peter's family would be protected if he obeyed and ruined if he did not. Adrian read every line. Then he looked at Peter and said, "Your mother keeps her job. Your sister keeps her care. You will give Miles every message, every call, every name. After that, you go home." Peter stared at him like he had misunderstood mercy in a language he barely spoke. "Go home." Adrian's voice remained low. "Before I change my mind about letting you breathe my air tonight." It was not gentle, but it was not cruel either. In that house, maybe that counted as progress. Peter nodded so fast I thought he might fall apart. When Miles let him out, the library settled into a different kind of quiet. Adrian turned toward me. "You were right about him." I hated how much those words mattered. I crossed my arms, more to warm myself than to defend myself. Desperate people are easy to mistake for guilty when you have never had to be desperate. He accepted that without flinching. "Then help me not make that mistake again." The request landed softer than any apology. Before I could answer, the library door opened, and Evelyn entered without knocking, silver dress glowing in the firelight, Nolan behind her with his perfect smile restored. She looked from Adrian to me, then to the tablet on the desk. "Darling," she said, her voice sweet enough to poison tea. "I hope you are not letting this little performance embarrass the family." Adrian did not move. "You mean the family that tried to sign me away?" "While I slept." Nolan laughed once. "You are tired. You are making wild accusations because a hired girl wanted attention." My face heated, but I did not look down. Not this time. Evelyn stepped closer, eyes pinned on me. "Clara, was it? You were paid to wear a dress, not speak in rooms above your station." The words should have cut. Maybe they did. But something in me had changed between the staircase and the shattered glass. I looked at her, then at the phone Miles had left on the desk, still open, still recording from the moment Peter walked in. And I realized Evelyn Whitmore had just handed me the one thing she thought I did not have. Proof. So I smiled, small and shaking, but real. "Then maybe you should have kept your station quiet enough not to confess on record." For the first time that night, Evelyn Whitmore looked at me as if I had become real. Not valuable. Not welcome. Real. Her smile stayed in place, but the skin around her eyes tightened, and Nolan's perfect confidence cracked like thin ice under a boot. The phone sat on the desk between us, its screen glowing softly, still recording every word. Adrian looked at it, then at me, and I saw the exact moment he understood. I had not planned it. Not completely. I had only noticed what powerful people always forgot. They talked when they believed the room belonged to them. They confessed when they believed the poor girl was too small to matter. Evelyn reached for the phone, but Adrian's voice stopped her before her fingers touched it. "Do not." One word. Quiet. Final. She froze. Nolan stepped forward with both hands raised, wearing the wounded expression of a son misunderstood. "Adrian, this is ridiculous. You cannot let some stranger turn you against your own blood." Adrian looked at him for a long time. My own blood stood in front of me tonight and called loyalty a contingency plan. Nolan's face paled. Evelyn lifted her chin. You built an empire on fear. Do not act surprised when people fear what happens if you fall. That was the closest thing to honesty she had given all night. Adrian did not answer right away. He looked older in the firelight. Not weak, not broken, just tired of standing in a house where love had been replaced by contracts. Then he did something nobody expected. He stepped away from the desk and stood beside me. Not in front of me. Beside me. Evelyn's eyes flicked between us, offended by the arrangement. She expected him to shield me, use me, dismiss me, or command me. So did I? Instead, he said, Clara, tell Miles to come in. My throat tightened. He could have called Miles himself. The intercom was right there. His men were outside the door. But he gave the room my voice, and somehow that felt heavier than the ring on my finger. I opened the door and spoke Miles's name. Within seconds, he entered with 2 guards and the kind of calm that meant the house had already started turning. Adrian handed him the phone. Preserve the recording. Add it to Peter's messages. Notify the board that Evelyn and Nolan are suspended from all family authority pending legal review. No spectacle. No harm. They leave this house before sunrise. Nolan stared at him. That is it. Adrian's gaze hardened. Be grateful my wife taught me restraint before I answered you. My wife. The words moved through the room differently this time. Not as ownership. Not as theater. As recognition. Evelyn looked at me with pure disbelief. You think you won something, little girl? I looked down at the dress that had hurt my ribs, at my scraped palms, at the ring still too loose for my finger. No, I said softly. I think you lost because you never learned the difference between quiet and stupid. Miles escorted them out. Not roughly, not dramatically, just firmly enough to make power change direction. When the door closed, the library felt enormous. Adrian and I stood in the silence they left behind. The rain had softened against the windows. Somewhere far away, a clock chimed midnight. He opened the desk drawer and removed a cream envelope. Inside was a legal document with my name typed cleanly at the top. Annulment papers, he said. Signed by me already. Money for your rent, your brother's tuition, and whatever life you want after tonight. You can leave before breakfast. No debt. No condition. I stared at the papers. All night, I had waited for the cage to appear. Now the door was open, and my hands did not know what to do with freedom. Why? I asked. Because you were paid to stand beside me, and you chose to save me. Because I called you mine before I understood that a person is not protected by being possessed. He placed the envelope on the desk and stepped back. The choice is yours, Clara. That was the moment he changed. Not when he believed me. Not when he spared Peter. Not when he sent Evelyn and Nolan away. It was when the most powerful man I had ever met finally gave up control and called it respect. I picked up the papers. Then I looked at him. I am going home to see my brother, I said. His face closed slightly, but he nodded. I understand. I almost smiled. I am not finished. I will go home, change out of this ridiculous dress, sleep for maybe 10 hours, and then you and I are going to discuss what a real marriage would require. Adrian went completely still. Real? I lifted my chin. Honesty. Boundaries. No owning. No frightening innocent people. And you are buying me a dress that actually fits. For the first time all night, Adrian Whitmore laughed. Not loudly. Not easily. But enough to make the room feel warmer. By sunrise, I walked out of the Whitmore estate with my brother's future safe. My name no longer a joke, and a mafia boss watching me like I had taught him a language his empire had forgotten. He ruled the city. But that night, I ruled the silence he had hidden behind. If this emotional mafia romance story kept you watching, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment your thoughts about Clara and Adrian's powerful love story. Tell us if you believe respect can change a dangerous man, or if trust must be earned slowly. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next mafia boss romance, underestimated bride story, secret marriage drama, and billionaire mafia twist. Continue watching the next video on our channel for another intense journey of love, power, betrayal, and redemption. Thank you for watching, and I promise the next story will pull you even deeper.